Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. Julian here for another waiver wire episode. This one for week 23 of the fantasy hockey season. We did it, guys. We have made it to the playoffs. I assume if you're watching this video, it's because your team is in the playoffs, or if you're ending in the very last week of the season, your team is just about to be in the playoffs. That starts next week for you guys. But for most people, your fantasy playoffs start this week, so it's super important that you make the right adds and drops to make sure that your team advances to the next round to get you that much closer to a fantasy hockey championship. Before we jump into this video, guys, please drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed to me. Still about half you guys that watch this channel are not subscribed to the channel, so definitely would appreciate that a lot if you did. And if you do want to take your support to the next level, check out the link down in the description below, guys. That link is to my Patreon, and I offer some pretty nice perks like being able to DM with me one-on-one for just the lowest tier at $3 Canadian per month or $2.50 US. So that's pretty nice, and you guys can DM with me as much as you want, and I'll try to help you with your fantasy hockey teams. Let's jump into the content now, guys, and let's take a look at the schedule for week 23. And on Monday, there are 2 games. Tuesday, 13, Wednesday, 3, Thursday, there are 11, Friday, there are 4, Saturday, there are 11, and Sunday, there are 10. So as you can see, guys, the off days are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Both Saturday and Sunday are decently busy, as are Tuesday and Thursday. So go ahead and check your lineups. Odds are your lineup is probably full on Tuesday, Thursday, and one of Saturday or Sunday. So make sure to check that. If you have room in your lineup every single day, you're chilling. You can make any ad you want, and really that player will fit in your schedule. But for most people, you're probably going to be full on those busy nights, so you're going to really want to be prioritizing the off nights of Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you can maximize the amount of games that you have on those off nights, you have the best chance of winning this week. So let's take a look at who has the best schedule, and that is the Washington Capitals. If you guys haven't checked out my schedule video yet for the fantasy playoffs, you absolutely should be doing that right now. You can check that out right up there. I'm going to link it in this video here. That's a very handy video. I'll tell you all the best schedules for the entirety of the playoffs, both off nights, most games, things like that. So definitely go ahead and give that a listen. But yeah, the Washington Capitals play all 3 off nights and the less busy of the 2 nights on the weekend on Sunday. I mean, personally, in all of my leagues, I have way more players playing Sunday than I do Saturday. But still, those 3 off nights, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, are going to be very clutch. So adding guys like maybe a Tom Wilson, a TJ Oshie could really turn the week around in your favor. Other teams that have good schedules are the Seattle Kraken and the Arizona Coyotes and the Dallas Stars. All 3 teams play on 2 off nights, which is pretty good. Now, as far as bad schedules go, I wouldn't say any particular team has a bad schedule, because actually no team plays less than 3 games, which is really nice considering it is the fantasy playoffs. And there is no team that's going to be playing less than any other, so that's really nice. But there are a few teams that play only 3 games, which is not that bad, and they're all on the busy nights. So either Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Those teams are Anaheim, Boston, Chicago, Detroit, Florida, Montreal, Nashville, the New York Rangers, San Jose, St. Louis, Vancouver, and Vegas. If you have a lot of players from these teams, I wouldn't be overly worried unless you're benching a lot of players on the busy nights. Jumping into some forward options now, and first on the list is Vladimir Tarasenko of the Florida Panthers. Now, he made quite a splash in his debut with the Florida Panthers, netting 2 goals and an assist, but since then has gone scoreless in 2 consecutive games. Obviously, 2 games is nothing to be overly worried about, and I do love his deployment on the top line with Alexander Barkov and Sam Reinhart. Players tend to excel in Florida, and Vladimir Tarasenko should be no different. I like his outlook for the fantasy playoffs. Wyatt Johnston is someone I'm liking a lot for this week, playing on the 3rd line in Dallas with Jamie Benn, but this dude is very hot right now, and Dallas Stars have a pretty good schedule this week with the games on Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. So some off-night games there, which is really nice. And Wyatt Johnston is someone that should be added in some leagues if you need some off-night games. Arturi Lehkonen is someone who's sick right now, but when he comes back to the lineup, could potentially get back on that top power play, potentially back on that top line with McKinnon and Rantanen, although that I'm not 100% sure of now because Nichushkin is just amazing. So either way, he'll be top 6 in Colorado, and I'm expecting him to do pretty well. The only reason I wouldn't pick this guy up is if he gets back in the lineup and he's only second line and not top power play, then I'd be a little bit more hesitant. But any other conditions, I like Lehkonen. Teuvo Teravainen super hot right now, playing on the top line with Svechnikov and Sebastian Aho, and is very, very, very hot right now. It's great to be streaming guys who are super hot like this going into the playoffs. He's someone I like a lot right now. Then Brian Rush of the Pittsburgh Penguins is someone I also like. He's finally back from injury, and since that injury, he's been shooting like crazy. His first game back, 6 shots. His second game back, 7 shots. And then the third game back, he actually scored a goal. So definitely someone that is getting some great deployment in Pittsburgh. And despite them being an absolute dumpster fire right now, Brian Russ is still someone that I don't mind owning right now. He's someone who I actually like owning right now. Speaking of insanely hot players, Yegor Sharangovich is another one of those. And he's someone who you kind of have to be adding right now, because when someone's this hot before the fantasy playoffs, you want them on your team. Obviously, he's on a terrible line right now with Dryden Hunt and Matt Coronado. I don't know why they did that to him, but he is still on the top power play, and the dude has triple eligibility, so he'll slot in anywhere you need him any night. I think Yegor Sharangovich is a good ad if you actually have room on those busy nights. Pavel Zacha, someone who I've kind of hated on a lot this year because, he hasn't been that great, but right now he's super hot, so definitely someone I'm looking at the least. If you do have room for a center on those busy nights, he is playing with Pasternak on that top line, but only second power play, so don't expect too many power play points from Zacha. But still, a guy this hot is definitely someone to consider. Dylan Strome is someone who I'm liking a lot right now, playing on the third line only, but until recently was on an incredible point streak, putting up points what seemed like every single night, and he is playing top power play still, so I do like Dylan Strome's outlook for the off nights that Washington has this week, and for the rest of the playoffs. Actually, Washington has such a great schedule. Nick Schmaltz, for those off nights this week, is super tempting. The dude's been scoring basically a point every single game, and while his peripherals haven't been that incredible, as long as he's scoring points, guys, he definitely deserves to be on your team and is definitely a good option for those off nights. Shane Pinto of the Ottawa Senators has declined a little bit recently, but the deployment he's getting is still really good. He's playing top line with Brady Tkachuk and Drake Batherson, but he's only playing second power play now, so that really hurts his value a lot. So if he really starts putting up less points, I don't mind dropping him either. But if he's floating out there and he's getting points, definitely don't mind adding Pinto either. Next guy on this list is Logan Stankoven of the Dallas Stars at 26% rostered. Now, yes, he's definitely slowed down since that very hot start, but Dallas does have that really nice off-night schedule this week, so I still don't mind taking a shot at Logan Stankoven. He's playing with Wyatt Johnston and Jamie Benn, so it's a pretty good line, and I think he still could turn things around on a week where you kind of want him in your lineup. Then I have Alex Killorn, who plays on the Ducks, and the Ducks play on 3 busy nights this week, so make sure you have room before you consider adding him. But if you do have room, Killorn has 5 goals in his last 6 games and 4 goals in his last 4 games, with a goal in each of those games. So Killorn is very hot right now, so if you can afford to add him, definitely don't mind that ad. Now, Mikael Granlund's the next guy on this list, and I like him a lot right now. He's putting up a pretty safe floor, not with peripherals, but he's putting points up pretty much every single night. He's pretty much the only half-decent player they have right now in San Jose, so he's playing on the top line right now with Barabanov and Zetterlund, and he's getting plenty of top power play time. He's getting plenty of ice time because San Jose has nobody else. They traded Tomas Hertl, who's injured anyway, and that's pretty much the biggest player they have right now who can play. Couture is out the whole year, so Granlund is their guy right now and should continue to put up points. I like his outlook a lot. Then I have Anthony Duclair, who was recently traded to Tampa Bay, and boy, I bet you he's happy to be back in Florida. In 2 games in Tampa Bay so far, he's got 2 goals and an assist. He's playing currently on the second line with Steven Stamkos and Anthony Cirelli, which is pretty good deployment, and he's only getting second power play time, which is not super ideal, but so far, he's definitely performing, and if he continues to get top 6 deployment, he can continue to have value. Then I have Tanner Jeannot, also the Tampa Bay Lightning, who was possible to come back on Thursday night, the week that I'm recording this. He obviously didn't come back, but I'm fully expecting him to be healthy for this week, and if you're in a categories league where you need some hits, Tanner Jeannot is a great pickup. I wouldn't pick him up in leagues that don't have hits at all. That's definitely a terrible idea. But any type of league that has hits, the dude can definitely provide you a pretty safe floor and could potentially put up a couple points as well. Then I got TJ Oshie of the Washington Capitals playing on the top line, top power play. He's freshly back from an injury, so he's definitely someone who can make for a great ad for this week since they play on all of the off nights, and he's playing with Ovechkin on both the top line and top power play. Definitely someone who I like a lot this week. Philip Kurashev is another guy to be looking at right now since Connor Bedard is off the charts hot right now, and Philip Kurashev is playing on the top line and top power play with him. Scored 4 points the other night because of Bedard. Definitely someone you at least should be considering adding this week. Tommy Novak, someone who I've had on this list for weeks now. He's someone who's been putting up points pretty much every single night, getting decent enough deployment on that second line in Nashville. And as long as he's consistently putting up points, he's definitely a great under-the-radar option. Then we have Hendrix Lapierre, who's playing on the second line with Pacioretty and Sonny Milano. And Lapierre has been actually playing pretty well, and he's also getting top power play time, so a good off-night ad there. And Sonny Milano, who's playing on that same line, but not getting top power play time, but still was a guy who was very hot. In terms of defensemen, Zach Werenski is the top power play guy in Columbus and has been pretty solid all year when he's been healthy. Shane Gostisbehere is really hot right now, which is really funny because that coincides with Detroit's 7-game losing streak. They have been absolutely terrible, but Shane Gostisbehere has been producing on that top power play in Detroit. Brock Faber is someone who seems to be turning around a little bit since I listed him as a drop a couple weeks back. He's definitely someone who I don't mind adding for the fantasy playoffs because he's definitely someone who could put up some points for you with the deployment that he's getting in Minnesota. Neil Pionk of the Winnipeg Jets is someone who's been doing pretty decently lately, putting up some points actually with some decent peripherals to go along with it. Seth Jones is someone who's putting up a lot of points right now just because Connor Bedard is so hot and he's playing on the same power play as Bedard. So as long as Bedard is this hot, Seth Jones is definitely someone you can consider having on your team. Bowen Byram is someone who I was considering making my Manscaped must-add player of the video, but by the time I actually recorded this, he's up to 49% rostered, so I wanted to choose someone a little bit less rostered than Bowen Byram, but man, has he ever been great, getting top power play time in Buffalo and top line with Rasmus Dahlin. He's been very good, putting up some very solid peripherals and a point every single game, which is absolutely fantastic. Adam Larsson is someone who I actually don't mind adding for this week because Seattle Kraken have a pretty favorable schedule with those off nights. And if you need a defenseman for those off nights, Larsson will provide a pretty safe floor. Matt Roy and Ryan Pulock are very similar kind of guys, putting up pretty safe floors with their peripherals, and he could potentially put up a point as well. And then finally, if you're in an insanely deep league and you really need a defenseman that could potentially put up points, Daniil Miromanov is an option. He's playing on the top power play right now in Calgary. And even though I'm not a huge fan of him, I think that he has the potential of putting points up just because he's playing on that power play. All right, jumping into goalies now. I'm going to be listing more goalies than usual this video because I want to be listing every single goalie that has at least a splitting position or a starting job in the NHL. And then you can go through your waiver wire and see who is actually available for you and make that decision for yourself. Now, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is obviously the #1 guy who you should be adding if somehow he's still available. The dude's been incredible over the past couple of months. He's been arguably the best goalie in the entire NHL. And the Buffalo Sabres have an incredible playoff schedule. So definitely someone who you must add right now if you somehow haven't done that yet. Peter Kochetkov of the Carolina Hurricanes is splitting startups now with Frederik Andersen, but they're definitely not going to be giving Frederik Andersen more than half the starts, in my opinion, because Andersen has a history of injuries, so they're not going to, put too much on his back. So Kochetkov should continue to get half the starts. Marc-Andre Fleury seems to have seized the starting job in Minnesota, and as long as he's winning, I'm not expecting Gustafsson to get a whole lot of starts. Next week, Gustafsson will get one of the back-to-back starts, but that's about it. Decord and Grubauer seem to be splitting starts in Seattle. If I had to give the edge to anyone right now, it would be Decord, but that could, flip any particular night if a goalie plays well. Joseph Woll is someone who hasn't played well in his last couple of starts, but the Toronto Maple Leafs do have 2 sets of back-to-backs in the first week of the playoffs, so Woll is pretty much guaranteed to get 2 games, so definitely not a bad pickup there. Connor Ingram of the Arizona Coyotes, in my opinion, is still the starter, although he hasn't been playing that amazingly lately. But he did play well in his last game, and if he keeps it up, he's definitely going to be the starter once again in Arizona. Alex Lyon is down to 50% rostered now, and unfortunately, not playing that great. You know, the Detroit Red Wings have dropped 7 straight. It's not really his fault particularly, but definitely not someone that's super great right now. But I do expect Detroit to turn it around, and I'm not expecting Husso to come back anytime soon. So Lyon is still going to be the starter over there in Detroit, and Samuel Ersson has had a couple bad games as well, but he's 100% the starter in Philadelphia. We'll get all of the starts other than back-to-backs. And next is my Manscaped must-add player of the video, Charlie Lindgren. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code word FANTASYTIPPED at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code word FANTASYTIPPED. This St. Patrick's Day, make sure your little hairy leprechaun is luckier than ever with Manscaped. And then I have John Gibson of the Anaheim Ducks, who's been splitting starts a little bit, but I'm expecting him to get the majority of the starts going forward because Del Stelle hasn't exactly been playing much better. So I'm still expecting Gibson to get hopefully all 3 starts this week, although he's definitely not my favorite option for the week. Then I have Peter Mrazek, who seems to have played himself into a time split, and not really his fault. It's more because Soderblom's actually playing well for the first time this year, so I don't know how long that's going to last. If Soderblom plays badly the night that I'm recording this, Mrazek could get all the starts once again going forward, so still definitely the guy that I would pick over the 2 of them. That's for sure. Casey DeSmith could have also been my Manscaped must-add player of the video. With Demko out, he is the starter in Vancouver and should do pretty well in Demko's absence. Obviously, he's not Demko, but he's a pretty decent goalie in his own right. And until Demko is back, definitely someone that you want on your team. Plus, the Vancouver Canucks have a pretty good off-night schedule next week. And then Samuel Montembeault of the Montreal Canadiens is a starter in Montreal, although Primo played really well in his last start, so Primo may have earned himself some more games. Either way, though, Montembeault should get the majority of the games in Montreal, so if you need a goalie who's going to get half to 2/3 of the games, Montembeault is that guy. And then Jake Allen might be the full starter in New Jersey. Pretty good start for him, and could potentially get the Tuesday and Thursday games this week for New Jersey, so definitely not a guy who I hate adding right now. And then Daniil Tarasov is splitting 50-50 with Merzlikins, and both those guys could be picked up if you need a guy who's split in the starts 50-50. And finally, Magnus Krona. If you're in a Super Deep League and you need a goalie who's starting, he is the only guy who's 1% rostered and is actually getting consistent starts, and he hasn't been too bad so far, especially if you're in a points-based league. And that's it, guys. I hope you guys take home the win in your first week of the playoffs. I'm going to wish you guys all the best luck in that. And if you do have any questions, leave them down in the comments and I will try to answer them. I know I haven't been the best with that this year. My apologies. It's just been a busy year. But I definitely will try to be doing that for the fantasy playoffs here because I know it's going to be really important to you guys. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tipped.